I thought this might be a decent place to get a quick video clip. Trouble is, I'm not a daredevil, I'm the furthest thing from it, so I don't want to go anywhere near the edge. And well, I'm hoping that this looks like I'm just leaning against this wall rather than holding onto it for dear life. I don't know why I chose here. Could probably come to about here, still be quite safe, I think. So today what I thought I'd do is talk about drones and drone photography in particular, because I've been asked about it quite a few times recently, probably because I've put quite a few drone photos on my Instagram account and uploaded some drone shots as prints on my website. Don't buy them yet though, I'm going to do a print sale in a few weeks, so hold on if you were thinking of buying a print. Drones. So yeah, I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with drones. I love them on the basis that they're incredible flying cameras, basically. I mean, you could sit in your car and move nothing but your thumbs and be able to fly in like a 5 or a 10 kilometer radius, whatever it is, and just inspect what there is to take photos of. Not legally in most places, you're supposed to have line of sight, but the point remains that the technology allows you to sit in your car, twiddling your thumbs, occasionally moving your arm to adjust the air conditioning or the heated seats or whatever you've got in your fancy car. I don't have heated seats, that would be nice. So yeah, drones are incredible pieces of technology. However, that is also why I hate them. So if I see a photo taken from the top of K2, kind of overlooking all the amazing Himalayas, I'm impressed with that photo because it looks incredible, but also because I know what effort and money and time and energy and skill and resources has gone into getting the person to the top of that mountain with a big camera to take that photo. It's very, very impressive. And with a drone, well, I know that chances are the photographer hasn't suffered at all, particularly if they've got heated seats. And for a lot of people, that won't be a problem at all. A lot of people see the skill in a photo just in the photo itself, and they don't consider kind of what's gone into the photo. For me, though, I really do, and therefore the photos that I take with a drone, or the photos that I just take by the roadside that I've just happened across while driving, they never really give me the same sense of pride that photos that I've kind of taken at the top of mountains, for example, that I've had to hike up all day. So yeah, that is why I don't really like drones sometimes. Having said that, they can get some incredible photos even if you don't feel personal pride for them. So I thought I'd go through some tips that I've learned over the past couple of years of taking drone pictures today. Away from this edge. Probably doesn't look that bad on camera. I'm about a metre. I don't know why I've stood here. There's loads of room up here. Thing number one I learned about drone photography was the importance of bracketing. Now, I bracket most of my photos with most of my cameras. You'll know that if you've watched lots of videos on this channel. But without doubt, the most important camera for bracketing with is the drone for a number of reasons. Firstly, I don't have one of those headset things, which looks a bit stupid, but probably works amazingly, where you can see what the drone is seeing through the headset. I'm relying on my phone screen to see what the drone is seeing. And in bright conditions, which you pretty much always are when you're flying a drone because it's illegal to fly at night, you can't always see your phone screen that well, and therefore it's a bit of a guessing game with exposure. You don't need to guess your exposure if you bracket. Also, because you're only typically flying in good conditions or good light or daytime light because it's illegal to do otherwise, your photos are typically going to have good shutter speeds, and therefore the bracketed photos are going to be taken over a very short amount of time, which means that if you do want to stitch them together in post-production, you're not going to have loads and loads of ghosting because they've been taken a split second apart, which means that basically, even though the exposures are different, the photo is the same. And when you take photos with a drone, you're usually quite a long way from whatever it is that you're taking a photo of, so it's moving very slowly in the frame anyway. And drone sensors typically aren't as capable as the sensors that you have on your stills camera. Depends what your stills camera is, basically. But yeah, even my Mavic Pro 2, which has got a great sensor compared to other drones, it's not as good as my G9, for example. So it's important that I have one exposure that's completely right, because you don't want to start your editing process from an exposure that's wrong, because typically the dynamic range isn't really anything to write home about. Great camera though, it's just you can't move it around in post as much as you can with your stills camera most of the time. Tip number 2 that I've learned from my time with a drone is how to scout effectively. Now, when you're scouting for photos with a normal camera, typically what you're doing is going around using your eyes, because you're going to be taking photos from the same or a similar perspective as what your eye sees, because your camera is going to be going up against your eye normally. With a drone, that's obviously a little bit different on the basis that a drone can take photos from perspectives you couldn't dream of getting to, simply because it can fly. And therefore, when you're trying to work out what a drone is going to be able to see, it might require some imagination. And therefore, what I try and do when I'm looking around a scene trying to work out what photo I could get with a drone is I try and imagine what the drone will see from a 90-degree straight down angle, a 45-degree down angle, and a completely flat angle. And I'll look around and I'll try and work out if there's a shot with any of those angles. And now you might be thinking to yourself, well, what's the point in that? Why don't you just send the drone up to do that? And then you won't have to imagine what it will look like. These batteries, these drone batteries, are quite heavy, particularly when they're empty. They're just dead weight. They're just sat in your bag doing nothing. And I prefer not to take more than I need, particularly when you're up a mountain and you're hiking all day. You don't want to use a battery first thing and then it just be completely dead weight in your bag. I'd prefer to try and imagine what the shot's going to be before I start using up the battery. That requires a bit of imagination when it comes to trying to work out what might be of interest when you get the drone in the air. I mean, yeah, you could just pack another battery, but I prefer not to. Aeroplanes. Do you remember those before lockdown? They were fun, weren't they? Good for holidays and business trips and stuff. Not so great for the environment, but they were handy. Anyway, do you remember the first time you were on a plane and you saw a road with loads of little tiny cars on it with loads of little tiny people in them? I do, and it completely blew my mind, to be honest. Still does, or did when planes were allowed. And with drones, you get the same opportunity to give a mind-blowing perspective, what still is, in my opinion, a mind-blowing perspective. And it's the same opportunity that's afforded to you, well, here, to be honest. Here at When It's Past, this is quite an unusual scene where you get a bird's eye view or a plane's eye view or a drone's eye view of a road with tiny little cars going up and down it, which makes it quite a special place for photography, in my opinion. Now, using props, so cars, people, bicycles, whatever it might be, in a grand scene like this can really help give the viewer a sense of just how big and how grand the landscape is. So whenever you can, having a scene like this that has a car or a person, whatever it might be, like I said, can really help magnify everything around it, the vista that surrounds the prop. And so anytime you get the chance to include one of those things in a drone shot, typically, in my experience, you should. I do feel a little bit like I'm on a plane up here, which is quite a nice feeling. I feel like I'm going on an adventure. I did check a flight comparison site this week for the first time in months, and I quite enjoyed it. Can't say I've ever enjoyed that before. Tip number 4 is to perfect your composition when you're using a drone, because you're afforded an opportunity that you don't get when you're using a normal camera. So for example, I might decide that the perfect composition from this particular place is 10 yards that way. Unfortunately, I can't take a picture 10 yards that way because I'd fall off a cliff. Now with a drone, you don't have to make compromises like that a lot of the time, because I can fly 10 yards that way. And therefore, when you can do that, you should take advantage of it. And even when you've got to make tiny little changes with your drone, you should go to the effort of doing it, because if it means that you don't have to crop in post, that's always going to be a good thing, because typically drones don't have as much resolution as stills cameras. Not in my case. My G9 has 20 megapixels and my drone has 20 megapixels, which is great, but typically drones don't have the croppability that lots of stills cameras have, and therefore trying to perfect your composition in camera is time well spent, and battery power well spent, in my opinion. Tip number 5 comes from when I was little, and I used to play a lot of football, and when I was 6, and I imagine it's the same for most 6-year-olds to be honest, I would pass and I would just stand and admire my work. I think to myself, wow, look how far I've just passed that ball. I'm only 6. And the point being that that's not really that good for your team, really, because if everyone was just standing admiring their own passes, the game wouldn't really progress that much. Which, to be honest, if you watch 6-year-olds play football, the game doesn't really progress very much. Anyway, the same thing really goes for drone photography. If you stand and admire the photo that you've just taken, you're going to be wasting battery power. And I'm bringing it back to battery power again, because it doesn't matter how many batteries you've got with you. If you've got a long day out with the camera, you might have just got the most amazing dawn photo, but if you stand and admire it and you're looking on the screen and you're taking 10 different versions of that photo and you're not progressing and you're not taking the opportunity to go and find other photos or to bring the drone straight back to you, then you're going to be burning battery power that you might want for later in the day. And I've missed loads of drone photos because I've not got the battery power to send the drone up for the umpteenth time in a day. And in those times, I've wished that when I'd got a good photo, I'd just come and landed the drone straight away, or gone straight to another location to go and get another drone photo. So yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is act fast when you're taking photos with your drone. Don't stand and admire your own work. Don't ogle over the photo that you've just got. It's all about battery power when you're taking photos with drones, and maximizing your photography with your drone is basically a lot about battery management, which is largely because I'm obsessed about weight management, as I think most people are when it comes to camera bags. No one wants to carry around unnecessary weight, I don't think. But yeah, acting fast is a good thing to do. I think it's about to start throwing it down. I just met a viewer. Nice to meet you, John. Well, I have a feeling I've met you before, but I love it when that happens. I love it when I meet people who watch this channel. A lot of people, like celebrities and genuinely well-known people, say that they don't like it when people come up to them, particularly when they're with their family and stuff. I love it when people come up to me, particularly when I'm with my family and friends, because I want those people to think that I'm big time. So yeah, basically, always come up and say hello if you fancy it, and particularly when I'm with people. I'm not joking, please do come and say hello. Also, I've been serious about the prints as well. If you're looking for a print, probably don't buy one in the next couple of weeks, because I am going to do a big sale. The books won't be included in the sale though, so please buy as many of those as you like. Nice one. See you next week.